The Australian Energy Market Operator's latest 10-year forecast says that all the states in the nation and its grid supply face reliability risks as renewable energy can't replace the closure of coal generators. For many people, myself included, it's the regulator telling us what we've been all saying for a long time. So it was really interesting to see this week New South Wales Energy Minister Penny Sharp defend coal power, we don't hear that often enough, and slam former New South Wales Energy Minister Matt Keane for standing in the way of New South Wales' ability to keep the lights on. Now, when Labor are defending coal power, you know the renewable lobby is in for a bit of trouble. So joining me now is the Environment Editor of the Australian newspaper, Graham Lloyd. Graham, welcome to the program. This AEMO warning really is very concerning. Blackout risks foreshadowed over a decade. How did we get here?
Well, good evening, Amanda. We got here along a road that a lot of people saw coming. We've been very good at closing down the stuff that works and not so great at building the stuff that's going to replace it. So AEMO is looking at the market. It's saying everywhere faces shortfalls going forward. South Australia first and Victoria, things need to change. And that involves backstopping the system with the coal-fired power that's in place, extending the life of those that were due to shut, and really speeding up the construction of these things that in many cases have been started, they're taking too long, they're costing too much. So all the plans and calculations that they've had up to this point are starting to look quite worrisome.
Anthony Albanese is set to address this issue on Friday next week at News Corp Australia's Future Energy Summit. What do you expect to be his pitch at that event?
Well, I'll let the Prime Minister speak for himself, but I imagine he's going to say this is a fantastic opportunity and a terrific financial thing that we can be a renewable energy superpower for the world, and he's got his best man on the job in Chris Bowen. Now, that's been the government's line. They are going to really be tested as things go forward, and a lot of these big projects that they expected to just happen are going to be a lot harder to get into place than they envisaged.
Another thing he's set to address is the Net Zero Australia report from July, which finds $1.5 trillion will have to be spent by the end of the decade if we're going to reach our reduction targets by 2050. Now, no one's expecting him to abandon ship, but surely that figure would have to give him pause.
Well, it certainly should be giving everybody indigestion, and that's only the start of it. The next figure is they expect between $7 and $9 trillion by 2060 to keep this thing going, because it's not only the power sector, it's every facet of the way we go about our lives, the built environment, agriculture, everything. And so you can really understand why so many in the business community are looking at this and saying, wow, this really is a big opportunity. There's going to be a lot of money slopping around. But what there has been less attention paid to is where it is all going to come from. Ultimately, of course, it's going to be you and I, but you really want to make sure you're getting value for money.
Well, I'd like to say, Graham, I think I'm too young to have indigestion, but that figure does give it to me. No one seems to be, at least in the governmental space, to price the counterfactual. That is, what would it cost the country and individual consumers if we had lent into coal or other technologies like nuclear? At the same time, transmission costs seem to be left out of the way that the prices of wind and solar get talked about. Do we need to have a more like-for-like or more holistic counterfactual analysis done so that Australians can understand what they're dealing with here?
Well, I think the big criticism is there was no real cost-benefit analysis done of the whole thing right at the beginning. We've been led, if you like, by an ideological desire to reduce carbon dioxide emissions, and the thing that everybody can understand is, well, we'll shut down the coal, and they probably don't fully understand the cost of doing things differently. And even now, those costs are not fully known. I think in the UK, over the last few days, they've had their auction for offshore wind, which they were offering a price guarantee of about $140 a megawatt hour. And there were no bids. The wind industry has said that, look, it can't be profitable at those prices. Now, that's quite alarming, because they were saying they were profitable at half those prices not so long ago. And this inflation feeds upon itself in this area. And so things are going to cost a lot more than people envisage. So to take stock, to sit back and say, what is a realistic outlook for this, and what are the options that are available, would be a very wise thing to do.
In light of all of that, what did you make of New South Wales Energy Minister Penny Sharp coming out in a strong defence of coal?
Well, it's the difference between being responsible and urging on from the sidelines, isn't it? If it's your job to make sure that the power stays on, then you're going to be pretty supportive of the thing that's delivering the power at the moment.
Yeah, too right. It's nice to see some of that coming out of the Labor side of politics. Thank you very much for your time, Graham Lloyd.